across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
That's right, it's me. Good morning and welcome to the terrific 10 to 1 show. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, normally a creature of the night, but shipped in from the darkness to bring you sunshine for the next 3 thrilling hours of news, views, fury and fun. Stand by for stunning stories, dynamic debate and great guests. Lots to get through, but we need to talk about foreign aid. As the world's worst economist, Robber Reeves, prepares to tax the hell out of us in her November budget from hell, remember this. Rachel from Accounts needs your money so that this ludicrous Labour government can hand £111 million to Pakistan to pay for condoms. You're struggling in order to fund family planning in a faraway land. Isn't that special? I'll focus on the madness of foreign aid throughout the programme. 12 million quid for the Ethiopian Spice Girls, anyone? And much more like that. 0344 499 1000. In other news, Labour's by-election humiliation as Keir's crew take a serious battering in Wales. Rising fury over the scandalous delays to the rape gang public inquiry, which now looks not to be happening until at least next year, if we're lucky, with her bored and angry attitude while effectively calling the victims liars. Should the so-called safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, get the sack? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, that ridiculous little man, David Lammy, insists that the hilariously hopeless one-in, one-out scheme is, and I quote, working a treat. So much so, the Gormless government is seeking to expand this comically useless nonsense to Germany, Belgium and the Netherlands. Why? It's total crap. Do you think Looney Lammy needs psychiatric help? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, two-tier Keir is set to beg Mini Macron to maybe think about stopping the Britain-bound migrants at sea. You know, for the £500,000 we gave to France to do the square root of sod all. At the moment, the gendarmes, I mean, they pretty much don't do anything on the beach. They stand there sort of waving the migrants goodbye as they make their way to the dinghies. But they have a golden rule that once the migrants are in the sea, even when they're paddling towards the dinghies or the small boats, the gendarmes, the police, the French cops do not follow. Starmer has been and continues to beg Macron, can you start getting in boats, going out to sea and actually stopping them getting into the boats or bring the dinghies back? Can you start doing that? No, monsieur. So we're not doing that. It's ridiculous. So we give them £500 million to patrol their own beaches. We've given France £500 million for lay cops to stand there waving the migrants goodbye as they make the 21-mile voyage to Dover and Folkestone across the English Channel. The farce is off the scale. And also, plus today, the weekend parent protests as the concerns escalate over the close proximity to schools of asylum seeker hotels. Safety on the streets, folks. Women are worried, children are worried, parents are worried. I've been focusing on my evening show on one school, for example, over in West London near Heathrow Airport called Cherry Lane Primary School, where it's very close to a huge asylum seeker hotel, a Holiday Inn with 600 rooms. And the asylum seekers, the migrants, of course, nearly all young men of sexually active age, they go underneath the underpass, underneath the M4, and they come right out by this school, and they hang around the gates, and they hang around leering at the kids through the playground fence. And we've got video of them smoking sheesh pipes and things like that. No one's saying they're committing any crimes, but the kids are extremely terrified by this. The parents are very perturbed. And that's why this weekend there will be protests all over the country, focusing on the alarming close proximity of these heavily populated asylum seeker hotels to primary schools, to schools, to kids. It's a safety on the streets issue, folks. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. And the question of the day. I don't usually do questions of the day, but I thought I would today, you know, because I'm here. It's this. Is it time for Britain to ban the burqa? Nigel Farage says that a Reform UK government would outlaw face coverings of all types. The Tories don't seem to be able to make up their minds, as per. Can they make up their minds about anything? Yeah, we're not going to leave the ECHR. We are going to leave the ECHR. You know, it's we're not sure about burqa. See, I'll tell you in about 6 months' time, Kemi will go, we've come to a conclusion. We're going to ban the burqa. Yeah, thanks, Kemi. You know, can you try and get with the programme, be a bit earlier on things? Just honestly, it's a slow coach death trail they're on. Unbelievable. And, of course, Labour would never consider banning the burqa. They would never consider any course of action that might possibly upset the UK's Islamic community. Muslim vote, innit? But what do you think? Seriously, ban the burqa or don't ban the burqa? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday mid-morning together. Right, so well, let's go to my first. Got some great guests for you today. Trevor Kavanagh, the brilliant former political editor of The Sun, will be along later. My old mate Ali Ross will join me as well. Lots to talk about in the telly world. Did you see that the two hosts, what they call Claudia and Tess, they've quit Strictly Come Dancing. So they're foxtrot Oscaring off into the horizon. No more for them. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about lots of other issues as well. The mad wokery of television. The television industry in this country has now, for about 5 years, been slowly killing itself, drowning in a vat of wokery that the executives think is great. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, that the people of this country just don't want. So they're just putting on programmes that no one wants to see. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So all that and so much more. Let's get going, though, first of all. Really pleased to welcome as my first guest, always a pleasure. She is Reform UK councillor and co-leader of the Reform UK's Law and Order campaign, a rising star in Nigel Farage's party. Layla Cunningham. Good morning, Layla.
Hi, Kevin. Good to see you when the sun's up.
Yeah, I know. It's very unusual, very unusual. I'm sort of squinting here. Well, first of all, let's talk about the Caerphilly by-election for the Senate down there. Labour humiliation. That was, ever since the 1990s, that has been a Labour stronghold. Most of Wales, be it the local elections or be it the general elections, have always been a massive Labour stronghold. But I mean, Reform did well. Slight disappointment that you didn't win, but you did very well. But I think the story Plaid Cymru, of course, win. But I think the story is this could be the beginning of the end of Labour in Wales, which is quite a seismic story. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Labour just lost a century-long grip on Caerphilly, a seat they've held since before the World War. I mean, for me, I think for Wales, it's a political earthquake. Because people who kept faith in Labour for generations, who trusted them to follow the values that Labour represents, they've had enough because they've been betrayed. Mm. And we may not have won the seat, Kevin, but we did win the argument. There was a lot of tactical voting against us.
And do you think when we come to the local elections in May and then going forward in the general election? I mean, I spoke to a Reform councillor in Swansea a couple of weeks ago because the local people were very upset that the kids' school had suddenly shipped in someone from the local mosque to teach them all about Islam. I'm talking about non-Muslim kids, and the parents hadn't been told. So a Reform councillor who represented the area came on. But I got to talking to her about Wales generally, and she was in no doubt that Reform potentially going forward could sweep the board in the fine country of Wales. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we transformed Welsh politics. You know, we went from 2% to 36%. That's the beginning of something. Or, you know, Labour's vote completely collapsed because people are completely sick of being ignored by a party that really took voters' loyalty for granted. And you know, Caerphilly is a warning to Labour. The old red wall is crumbling.
What do you think it is, Layla, that, you know, you would have thought that Labour voters, the idea of them switching to Reform, it's like the sort of technically like the polar opposite politically. Yeah. And yet, you know, in the red wall seats around the country, it seems that old school Labour voters are very attracted to Reform. Why do you think that is?
I think because we speak common sense. We know what they want. You know, they don't want mass immigration. They don't want their towns to change so much. They don't want illegal migrants coming in and then paying for it. They don't want to pay such high. They don't want to work hard and pay such high taxes. And like you say, send foreign aid. You know, 11.13 billion foreign aid. Yeah. Foreign green aid, and then pay for it. Yeah. You know, don't forget it was Labour that brought in all the woke ideology. You know, a lot of them are white working class in Wales, and Labour said basically, if you're white working class, then you're too privileged for help, too privileged to get a civil service job.
Yeah, yeah. I think
if they complain, Kevin, they're called racist. You know, they complain about people country and wanting to change the country, not wanting to assimilate. And if they say no, we don't want that, then Labour look them in the eye and say you're racist.
Yeah, they don't. I think Labour don't seem to like so many of their own voters. They've become a party of North London, not a party of the entire country. Let me ask you about this. Nigel Farage has signalled support for a burqa ban. In fact, he's in favour of something that I think most people would agree with. He's in favour of banning face coverings generally. I mean, you know, these Antifa left-wing demonstrators tend to wear them. You see them at the pro-Palestine marches. Half the protesters or the demonstrators have got these masks on. So there's a security issue there. So Nigel Farage, yes, a burqa ban, but also face bans generally. Yeah, I'm asking you this as a representative of Reform, but also you're a Muslim, and of course, what needs to be borne in mind when we discuss this issue, people say, oh, well, you go kind of Western countries, you know, they don't understand. There's a lot of, there's quite a few Muslim countries, Islamic countries that have banned the burqa, Tunisia, for example. So where do you stand on the possibility or the proposal that we ban the burqa in Britain, Layla?
Yeah, I hate the burqa. It symbolises the erasure of women. And if we're serious about security, then no one should be covering their face in public, whether it's a burqa, a balaclava, a mask, and it should apply to all face coverings that conceal your identity. And that means motorbike helmets, hoods drawn to obscure faces, because we do have an issue now. Crime has become more brazen because people can cover their faces. And it should be an offence to cover your face without legitimate reason in a public place. And for me, police can issue fines or require you to uncover your face for ID purposes. You cannot identify suspects or witnesses if faces are hidden, and that undermines justice and policing. So yeah, I would be, in fact, like Nigel, in favour of banning burqas and all face coverings. We live in a country where, you know, you shouldn't be able to give evidence in court without showing your face, because identification matters, and you can't have justice if people can't be recognised.
On a religious basis, though, in terms of, I agree with that, actually. I mean, it's absolute common sense, you know. Identification is impossible if you you know, you can only see someone's eyes. But on a religious basis, you see, or a cultural basis, I'm uncomfortable about the idea of telling women what they can and can't wear. I get that. But I don't like what the burqa signifies, and I think maybe as a country we should take a stand on this as well. What I don't like about it is a signal that women are somehow second-class citizens, that they're inferior to men, they're subjugated by men. And a lot of Muslim women say, well, you know, you shouldn't tell me what to wear, I choose to do this. I don't really trust that. I mean, you know, you choose to do it, but on whose bidding? Why is it you do this? You do it because Muslim men want you to do it. And I don't like the fact that it signifies that women are somehow lower down the ladder to men. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the burqa is not, covering your face is not a religious requirement at all in Islam. In fact, the Quran just says you have to be modest. It's part of some cultures, you know, it's part of Wahhabism in Saudi Arabia that force you to do that. You see it in Afghanistan. Like you said, you don't see it in Tunisia. You don't really even see it in a lot of Middle Eastern countries as much as we see it in some towns here. And Kevin, I'm the same as you. I'm deeply wary of giving the state the power to decide what we can and can't wear, because once the government claims that power, it can't give it back. So one day it might be the burqa, the next day it might be something else.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to frame it, you know, about security. No one should cover their face in public, whether it's a balaclava, a mask, or a burqa.
Yeah, agreed.
We don't really want laws that police wardrobes.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I just don't like the burqa on a number of levels, for security reasons, but also for cultural reasons, also for reasons of equality of the sexes. I think the burqa is a sign that somehow or other the sexes are not equal. Women are inferior to men, and I don't like that.
Yeah, of course you're right, because when you see a man walking next to the woman, he's not covering his face.
Yeah.
It's the woman, and you're right. It's a form of oppression.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with religion. It's got to do with certain cultures that really don't match our way of life. That feel that women should be almost not seen and erased, and that's not something we want in this country. And I know Muslim countries have also said that. So I would like to see a blanket ban on face coverings, because as a prosecutor, it's almost impossible to prosecute someone with their face covered.
Yeah, I should point out to the audience that Layla, among her many talents, is an excellent criminal barrister as well.
Kevin, can I just say, we have a serious problem in this country, because when I was a prosecutor, I had to prosecute someone in a burqa in the dock.
Did you?
Yes, and I asked the judge, can the lady remove can the defendant remove the burqa, face covering? And the judge told me no. These are religious sensitivities. Oh God! We're not doing it. So I had to prosecute a faceless person.
Yeah, so for all you know, it might not have even been the defendant. That is just absurd. That is absurd.
Yeah, absurd. But that's happening here now.
Yeah, well, that's wokery in our judiciary. That's another issue. We'll talk about that another day. Let's move on to the grooming gang inquiry. We're now hearing that after 5 months of delays, don't forget it was June when the Louise Casey report forced Keir Starmer reluctantly to concede we did need a national public inquiry to look into, to investigate the worst sexual scandal in British history. There are an estimated 250,000 victims, mostly young, white, vulnerable girls, many of them underage, and mostly their torturers, their sexual abusers, their rapists were gangs made up of Muslim men of Pakistani origin. Many of the victims, I've had a couple on my show, some of whom had been co-opted onto the inquiry on something called the Victims Panel. They have been quitting all week, 4 of them, one by one, because they say that it was clear the government was trying to widen the remit of the inquiry so that it did not focus on the ethnicity and the religion of the rape gang members, and the girls weren't having that. They also feel they've been ignored, treated with contempt, and so they've quit. Now, they can't find anyone to be the chairperson of this. They say that'll take them another few months, so it's going to go on until next year. The delays are becoming a scandal in themselves, aren't they?
Kevin, the Labour Party is the scandal within itself. This is a disgrace. These girls were failed once by the state, in particular Labour, when they were abused, and they're being failed again. 6 months after Baroness Casey's report said there must be an inquiry. No, how can you not know that the victims would want someone completely independent? They don't want the police who let them down, or the social services, someone from the social services to lead the inquiry. They want a judge, rightly so, not another insider who put it up.
Yeah, because you're right. I mean, I know a couple of the girls very well, and they were furious that the two proposals as potential chair people, one was an ex-copper and one was an ex-social worker, and they're saying, no, these are, I'm not talking about specifically the candidates we're talking about, but they say these are the people who should be in the dock, not leading the inquiry. These are the people who turned their back on us: coppers, social workers, teachers, local politicians, mostly Labour politicians, hence Labour's reluctance to actually start this inquiry. And also, they're furious with the so-called safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips. And all four of these girls who quit this week say that they will happily return to the inquiry, but only on the basis that Jess Phillips goes. And she did something this week in the House of Commons when the girls said, all of them said, listen, they're widening the remit. They won't let us focus on the ethnicity of the gangs. The fact that they are mostly Muslim men of Pakistani origin. She stood up, Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister, supposed to be safeguarding the victims of this kind of horror, and said, no, we're not widening the remit. So the girls think that she stood up in the Commons and called them liars. And they say they will not return to the inquiry until she goes. I think she should go, don't you?
Of course she should go. It's all dither or delay. Every day that she delays, it sends a message that protecting their votes matters more than justice for these girls. And I read the Home Secretary's press release where she said one of the scope will be examining the ethnicity of the offenders. We know what the ethnicity of the offenders is. It should be in the title. This should not be just grooming gangs. This should be Muslim Pakistani rape gangs inquiry and how the state was allowed to get away with it. We don't need to examine the ethnicity. We need to examine how the state covered it up. And everyone involved, from MPs, councillors, social services, police, need to be prosecuted. That's what they want. These victims were failed by a government that is too scared of losing votes to appoint a judge to expose the truth.
Yeah, they want a chairperson who will be favourable to Labour. They don't want to point the finger at Muslim men because they're keen on the Muslim vote. They're playing politics, and this is about 250,000 girls who were plied with drink, drugs, raped, tortured. This is about the victims, and the fact this government is playing politics with it, I think, is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. A quick last question. I haven't got too long, Layla. Great to talk to you as always. Thank you for joining me. Let's talk about, just briefly, the absurd one-in, one-out deal. I think the score so far is we've sent 46 migrants back to France in a scheme that started in August. They've sent 18 back to us. Only of the 46 we sent to France this week, we learned that one of them got back on an illegal dinghy and came back to Britain. So it is an absolute comical farce. David Lammy said yesterday, I am not kidding, he said the one-in, one-out scheme is working a treat. I think he needs psychiatric help. But so ridiculous is this. The government is now, this absolute farce, this waste of time, which is supposed to be a deterrent. Ever since it started, something like 11,000 migrants have crossed the channel illegally, so it's not deterring anyone. It's such a joke. They now are planning to expand it from France, of course, to Germany, Belgium and the Netherlands. What the hell are they thinking? This is ridiculous.
I mean, absolutely ridiculous. We basically sent that one who came back on a nice taxpayer-funded holiday to France. But they're not parcels to be traded. What message does that send? You know, that Britain's borders are up for negotiation. We shouldn't be bartering over who takes who. We should be stopping the boats, full stop. The one-in, one-out deal is just desperate diplomacy. We obviously can't rely on our neighbours to enforce our borders, so we have to secure our own. And that means leaving the ECHR, immediate detain and deport, and withdrawal from any treaty that stops us from doing it. And they're not willing to do any of that. We're a sovereign country. We shouldn't need permission from other countries to defend our coastline. And you know, Kevin, by the way, under Section 24 of the Immigration Act, it is actually illegal to enter our country. Do you know how many are prosecuted for illegal entry? 1%.
1%, yeah.
1%.
Yeah.
1%.
Well, we've taken.
So,
you'll know this as a lawyer, Layla. This nation, that Britain, has taken. People say, "Oh, you see, you don't understand. You see, once the migrants arrive in the country, once they manage to get onto Dover or Folkestone Beach, they're no longer breaking the law. Because they claim asylum, and that makes them legal." No. They have broken our laws. They've broken a very serious law. It's just that Britain has taken a political decision not to prosecute them and to allow them to make their asylum claims, and then of course we let them stay for 10 years, then start giving them benefits, and they cost us a fortune. But it is not, they do not become legal once they get here. That is political, not legal, and I say we should prosecute them, every single one of them.
Yeah, but you know, the Home Office has basically deprioritized prosecution. They basically legalized illegal entry.
Yes, that's the term. Yeah.
Basically, you know, and then, so because once you're processed through the asylum system, you're right, it neutralizes that offence of illegal entry.
Yeah.
So they become asylum seekers, and then everyone talks, and the narrative is, oh, you know, these are asylum seekers coming from war-torn countries. No, they're not. They're illegal criminals who are part of a massive gang, by the way, who's allowing them to come in, and a gang that is really attacking our country.
Yeah, and also I'd say, Layla, finally...
On who sent them in.
Yeah, finally, I think we should point out the gang, or the gangs of which you speak, have not been smashed. We haven't smashed any gangs. You don't hear that anymore, do we? Smash the Gang didn't work, one in, one out didn't work, and the government just carries on, and more and more and more of them come across the channel. It is an ongoing sick joke, it really is. Layla, thank you very much for joining us. Have a lovely weekend. Good to talk. That's the brilliant Layla Cunningham, Reform UK councillor and co-leader of Reform UK's Law and Order campaign. Let me know what you think about what we were talking about there. 03444 991 1000, and we'll be back in just a moment.
If your way of dealing with a bunch of ravenous wolves is to throw a vast amount of steak on the ground, you will find that they stop chasing you for a bit. And whereas Streeting's been saying, oh, look, we've
solved this. Unlike the Tories, we've solved this, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And for a few months, things, the reduction in waiting lists, which was happening under the Conservatives, I might add, continued. And now for the last 3 months, it's gone into reverse. And the ravenous wolves, if you throw them a load of meat, funnily enough, they come after you with even greater intent.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a little while, Robert Bates, the research director at the Centre for Migration Control, will be in the studio talking about the latest farcical chapter in the ongoing book of disaster that is the one in, one out scheme. The front pages of yesterday's paper, I think the Mail had Le Farce, and that sums it up. The story of the guy who we sent back to France on the one in, one out scheme, who then went straight back to Calais, got onto an illegal dinghy and came back to Dover, pretty much sums up what an ongoing sick joke this long-suffering nation is being subjected to. I'll talk to Robert after the next break, but first, time for a quick call. Welcome to the show from all the way from Bradford, John. Hi, John.
Hi, good morning. Let's look at the Quran. The Quran.
But you want to talk about the burqa, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
the Quran does not require women to wear burqas. It says both men and women should dress modestly. Now, this has been corrupted by the extremists who want to impose these on people, because I've lived in the Middle East and I know many, many countries there do not allow the burqa, do not allow it.
There's a lot of Muslim countries ban it, yes, absolutely.
That's right. I mean, some areas do. It's a local thing. It's not required. Now, what the problem is Reform has not said ban the burqa. What the Reform has said is to ban all head and face coverings.
Well, that's not a bad idea, is it?
No, it's a very good idea, but the press is pushing the fact that Reform wants to ban the burqa. They haven't said that. They said they want to ban all head and face coverings.
I quite like the idea. I mean, I like the idea of banning face coverings, but I also personally quite like the idea of specifically banning the burqa.
Well, no, but banning all head and face coverings, that would cover.
Sure. But for the sake of argument, if somebody turned around and said we're going to ban Muslim women from wearing the burqa, I'd go along with that. I'm uncomfortable about the idea of telling women what they can and cannot wear, but I don't like what the burqa signifies. It signifies that women are second-class citizens. So I'd ban the burqa.
That's right. I mean, I've gone to hospitals. I've got difficulty hearing, and you get people wearing these things, and you can't hear a damn word they say. And you're frightened of saying something in case you're called a racist. What this government's doing, and what a lot of people don't realise, is they're changing the culture of this country from a Christian country to a Muslim country. And I'm sorry for saying that, but this is what's happening. And what they're doing is they're not encouraging inclusion; they're encouraging division by favouring one section of the community over another. And I'll tell you something. What happened in Dublin last night, or Tuesday night, you wait until she delivers her budget, and that'll be the spark that lights the gas.
Well, I think what's happening in Dublin, and what you're saying about, if you like, the Islamification of Britain, is something that a lot of people are worried about, and I think it's a very valid concern. What's happening in Dublin, though, of course, is allegedly a 10-year-old girl has been sexually assaulted, allegedly by an asylum seeker in an asylum seeker hotel there, and that that is why the local community are rising up in arms. We don't know the truth about that because in Ireland, the identity of anyone charged with sexual assault is not revealed by law. But the local community think that the perpetrator was an asylum seeker and a 10-year-old local girl was assaulted. That is a pretty incendiary incident that is bound to trigger great unrest, and that's what's happening in Dublin.
But the other thing, of course, is the one thing that virtually every other Middle Eastern country's done, and Europe's done, right, is to ban the Muslim Brotherhood. They're the ones that are taking over the mosque. They're the ones that are spreading the venom, and they should be made illegal. They should be made a terrorist organisation and banned completely. Everybody else is doing it, but what are we doing? Oh, we're allowing it to happen.
Well, yeah, because we have a government that is very reticent in any way to upset the Muslim community because it wants the Muslim vote. So we have a problem there. Yeah, John, good points there, very good points. Good to talk. Thank you very much for the call. John in Bradford, let's go to break. Robert Bates on the one-in, one-out scheme next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, my friend Robert Bates, the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, is in the studio. He's never seen me in the daylight before, and I've never seen him in the daylight.
Pretty sight.
Before.
Enjoying it.
Well, I'm better looking than you thought, aren't I? Yeah. You too, Robert, of course. Right, one in, one out. I cannot believe... I mean, you know, you're used to politicians sort of coming out with absolute claptrap. But David Lammy saying the one-in, one-out scheme is working a treat. I mean, in terms of absurd statements, that takes the biscuit. It is an absolute sick joke, isn't it?
I think this is where we're at with the government now. Their sort of track record after 15, 16 months in is so woeful. They are literally having to resort to these statements that are so far removed from reality. This is even before we get to the individual who, of course, managed to sneak back in, having been removed. But it's not a 1 in, 1 out. It's an 11-odd thousand in, 42 out. Well, 41 again now because we've had another individual re-enter. This is a scheme that was doomed from the start. It had a fundamental sort of flaw with its very methodology and how it was hoping to act as a deterrent, and now we're actually starting to see these loopholes. The brass neck, honestly, of a senior politician to come out and try and claim that this is in any way a success is simply staggering.
It is staggering, and also it's insulting to our intelligence. And as we watch this nonsense continue to unfold, people all over the country, millions, we just go, what on earth is it for? I mean, they're carrying on with it. I mean, even more ludicrously, they're now planning to expand 1 in, 1 out to Germany, Belgium and the Netherlands. You know, it was always a flawed scheme, but we must remember it's supposed to be a deterrent. The idea being that although numerically you achieve nothing, because all we're doing with France is swapping foreigners. It's a swap of foreigners scheme. So you don't reduce the number of migrants at all. The idea was that, you know, we'll take 1 in every 17 migrants and they'll get dispatched back to France. And the idea is that all migrants will say, well, I could be that 1 in 17, therefore I won't risk it. But of course, when you're given that kind of odds, they were never going to not risk it anyway. That is well worth a roll of the dice. So it was never a deterrent. And now, palpably, demonstrably, we can see it isn't working as a deterrent, because 11,000 migrants have crossed the Channel since it started in early June. So what's the reason for it? Why are they bothering?
They desperately needed something around which to base their piecemeal strategy, because, you know, it's so far been gimmick after gimmick, sort of desperate attempt to grab a headline here, sort of a little hurried meeting over in the Balkans. So they really needed something around which they could say, well, this is the centrepiece of our strategy, and they've cobbled together this ridiculous plan, which you're absolutely right, is clearly not a deterrent. Although what it actually does do, of course, the individuals that we are getting from France are individuals who effectively we then have to support for the rest of their lives. They get given refugee status because they're kind of pre-approved, whereas what's happening when we remove an individual to France is France is saying, right, where are you from, and then shipping them back to their country of origin. So France are actually reducing their burden, whereas we seem to be continuing to compound it. The thing that makes me laugh about this conversation about extending it to other countries is the Home Office has always been very clear that they'll only look to sort of have this negotiation with Netherlands and Germany once the concept has been proven with the deal with France. Once the deal with France has been so proven to be such a success that it makes sense to extend it to other countries. I think what we're doing here is putting ourselves into entanglements with Europe, which we've seen time and time again in recent years will lead to us being beaten around, taken advantage of, and them effectively sort of laughing at us all the way to the bank.
And I think with this 1 in, 1 out scheme, the only reason the government's still gathering around it and telling stupid lies like it's working a treat is they've got nothing else to say. This is it.
Exactly.
This is it. They've got no other deterrents, no other schemes out there. You know, they've given up on smash the gangs, because that was a complete joke. That didn't work. So they're just talking about this, even though everybody with half a brain can see it's a sick farce. It's an absolute joke. Meanwhile, we hear that, you know, after we've given France, I think it goes into around about 700 million over the years, but our last big donation to the French purse was, I think it was 23, wasn't it? It was Rishi Sunak gave them half £500 million to patrol their own beaches, which they, of course, don't.
No.
The gendarmes don't do anything.
Well, they popped one. I think they stopped one. And then,
so that doesn't work. So the Prime Minister is apparently currently urging old Mini Macron, that pipsqueak idiot who mismanages France, please, 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 can your gendarmes start getting into little boats and stopping these water taxis, as it were, that take the migrants out to the small boats and the dinghies to ferry them on to Britain. Can you get into the sea and start stopping them? Because the gendarmes, to this day, have always had a system whereby as soon as the migrants get ankle deep in the English Channel, you know, paddling, the French police, les cops, don't go. So that once the migrants are in the water, they're free. So we've been urging France to change that rule. Apparently there's a union consideration.
Of course, always is with the French.
The French cops union saying, oh, we are not going to put our members in danger. Starmer is begging again.
Begging is the right word.
Begging again. Macron won't do anything. The desperation is off the scale, isn't it?
It's really demeaning to see a British Prime Minister really on his sort of knees begging a French Prime Minister to actually help him out of his own predicament. I think there are pretty much three things certain in life: death, taxes, and the French really doing nothing to help the Brits. And this is unfortunately another example of that. Storm would spend his time much more productively solving this problem if he donned a hard hat and started constructing detention facilities to actually make sure that individuals, once they arrive in Britain, are put in a secure facility, not in HMOs, not in hotels, and then swiftly deported. We don't need the French to solve this problem. This is something that, if we have in place a proper detention and deportation strategy, they will get the message eventually, and we will make sure that this problem is solved. Unfortunately, he is so enamoured with this idea of cooperation, international cooperation, whether it's with the French or whether it is with those Balkan countries, that I really can't see a way in it. He has that introspection to recognise that the problems are homegrown and they can be fixed on a domestic basis. Well,
it was great to talk to you, Robert. I've got one last quick question because I have to move on. I'm making a theme of this show of foreign aid because I got this story last night and it bears repeating. So old Robert Reeves is about to tax the hell out of all of us, break all of her promises and raise income tax and all sorts of other taxes in her budget from hell in November. Part of that, the money that she makes, she needs this money because we're about to send, listen to this, foreign aid, £111 million to Pakistan to pay for condoms. £111 million to fund family planning in faraway Pakistan. And she's taxing us because she needs money. I mean, this is incoherent, isn't it?
It is, and this is where you look at what the Trump administration has done with Doge, and they've just kind of said, no, this doesn't help us, doesn't help the national interest, let's do away with it. That's the mentality that we need to have with this. Foreign aid is really a pointless exercise at this point. It really doesn't help the British interest at all, and it needs to be completely reorientated or scrapped.
Are you saying, then, you don't think it was worth giving Ethiopia £12 million to form their own Spice Girls band?
I don't know. I've not seen their big hits yet. I'll have to see what the music videos look like before I pass judgment.
The Yegna Girl Band.
It sounds like they've got potential.
We British taxpayers, we gave Ethiopia, or the Yegna Girl Band in Ethiopia, their equivalent to the Spice Girls, £12 million to fund their pop careers.
Yeah, I think I'd struggle to see the worthwhile of that, the benefit for that. I don't really think that doesn't fix potholes,
does it? That's a bit controversial. Robert Bates doesn't think we should have given Ethiopia £12 million.
I'll have a knock on the door for saying it. No,
we've got lots of other examples. I'm going to bring it. You know, we actually gave money. This is true. We actually gave money to China to teach their peasants how to grow rice. I mean, what next? Money to the Sahara to teach them how to, build sandcastles or something. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And that, stop all this, then you won't have to tax us so much.
And stop the $10 billion that we're sending to foreign nationals in universal credit as well, of course. There's so many savings. Just stop giving foreign people our money.
Oh, God. Stop the world, folks. I want to get off. Big thanks to Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. When we come back, more madness. We're going to talk to Chris Morrison from the Daily Sceptic about net zero and the upcoming massive jaunt to Brazil to save the planet by 450 British delegates who will kind of destroy the planet on aeroplanes flying there. Honestly, we are stuck in a swirling mass of insanity. We really are, folks. We'll talk about more of it next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. He's the environment editor at the Daily Sceptic, Chris Morrison. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Kevin.
Well, first of all, it looks like Ed Miliband's madness is at long last beginning to collide with reality, that even Keir Starmer and his cabinet crew are realising that Ed Miliband's mad dash to completely decarbonise our electricity system by 2030, to get to net zero by 2030, is going to push up everyone's energy bills, not bring them down. It is frankly just not realistic to do. Therefore, looks as if Keir will have to turn round to his hero, Ed, and say, sorry, Mr. Miliband, we're not going to do this. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it?
Well, I'm not so sure. I think that they haven't really worked out the scale of the disaster that they're facing, which is basically net zero. Because even Tony Blair, he got some young woman who's got a master's degree in, I think, economics or politics and comparative politics. She's about 25, and she wrote this new report where Blair apparently is pushing back. But it's all about net zero. And net zero, they're completely tied up with the Climate Change Act, the budgets, the legislation. They're talking about new runways. They're talking about new developments in airports. It's unlikely that much of that will get past the courts because they're not allowed to do it, basically. What's interesting is, I just very briefly mentioned, I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast yesterday. That's probably the largest podcast in the world.
It is, yeah.
And in America, they now freely debate, say, the science, the climate, net zero. And they had two brilliant climate skeptics who have been around for years, emeritus professors William Happer and Richard Lindzen. And Lindzen said that there are two countries now in the world that are like, if you like, the canaries in the coal mine, likely to collapse under net zero, likely to suffer massive...
Don't tell me we're one of them.
Yes, Germany's one, and the United Kingdom, according to Dick Lindzen, is another. We are likely to face net zero will impoverish us. We will not have any industry because the electricity prices will be too expensive. We will have people freezing in their homes. We will have blackouts, very likely, because the great Catherine Porter, who's making quite a name for herself, this great physicist economist, is pointing out the madness of everything they're doing. Everything that the politicians are saying are simply, as far as I can see, just rearranging the decks on the Titanic. The band is not quite playing Nearer My God to Thee, but it's
almost. And don't forget, in a couple of weeks, Keir Starmer's going to join about Ed Miliband and about 450 British delegates as they fly 9,000 miles to the Brazilian Amazon rainforest in order to destroy the planet, but discuss saving the planet. Meanwhile, the Luddites in the Labour Party are rising against the new runway at Heathrow. We are trapped, as I just said, in a swirling mass of madness, and net zero and Ed Miliband are at the centre of it. Chris, all too brief. We'll talk again soon. Thank you very much, Chris Morrison there. And next up, I think it's Trevor Kavanagh, so stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, look, let's get straight on with the show, shall we? Because I've been looking forward to this moment. A warm welcome to the former political editor of The Sun, now a prolific columnist there, and one of the great sages of Westminster, I would suggest. Welcome to Trevor Kavanagh. Hello, Trev.
Good morning, Kevin.
Well, look, first of all, I just thought this would be funny. We'll talk about Caerphilly and Plaid Cymru nudging reform into second place, but obviously Labour's humiliation. I was just looking at that well-known right-wing television outlet, Sky News. Their take on it was this. Nigel Farage nowhere to be seen as reform loses Caerphilly. The real story there, which is seismic, is Labour has lost it, and Labour has held that seat forever. It's held most of Wales forever. Reform gave them a good fight, but the Labour disappeared. The Tories were nowhere to be seen. I think we're seeing the beginning of a seismic change in Welsh politics, wouldn't you say?
And in British politics, I mean, that description of the way the poll went by the Sky TV political editor, I mean, that's the sort of spin that Alistair Campbell would be truly proud of. The simple fact is that, OK, reform didn't win, as it really did hope to do, but it came pretty well up there in an area which it didn't exist in until very recently. So it is entitled to be very pleased. Everyone else, apart from Plaid Cymru, is a loser, and a very, very bad loser too. I mean, Keir Starmer has gone from being a second-rate lawyer to a third-rate politician to an absolute catastrophic dud as a party leader and prime minister. And that message has finally filtered through to the voters right across Britain. And I think that we've been predicting that he cannot last, but he's lasted so far. This is the beginning of the real end of Keir Starmer.
And the axe will, if not finally fall, begin to really smash into his neck, won't it, at the local elections in May, where I think he's going to suffer some serious losses, especially in Wales. And going forward, when we finally get to a general election, hopefully before 29, but the feeling is that Wales will go to reform. So Keir Starmer and his acolytes have succeeded in losing an entire country that has, I mean, been absolutely steeped in Labour support literally forever. So why do you think this is happening, Trevor, in Wales in particular?
Well, I think Wales is the real litmus test of Labour's popularity. This, as you say, has been literally their home turf for more than a century. And it's been held by some of the giants of the political party over that period. To lose Caerphilly is to lose this seat is. I mean, it cannot be overstated how bad and how serious this is, not just for Starmer, who is, as we say, a failure from beginning to end, but for the Labour Party, which has got just about everything wrong since it took office last year. And it is at such odds with the rest of the British public on almost every single issue, on welfare, on the economy, on tax, and especially on immigration. And this is where Nigel Farage, literally out of nowhere, although of course we've had Nigel in the background over a number of issues over the years, but to build a party from scratch, which it is really, and turn it into a threat to the government and a genuine threat to the Conservative Party, which we haven't mentioned so far, but has done very badly too in Caerphilly. I mean, that's an amazing result.
Yeah, and what will be going on in Westminster? I don't know if you've still got your tentacles working in the Westminster bubble. But what will be going on behind closed doors at Number 10 and in Labour Towers? They must now be talking about doing something about Keir Starmer. He's the steward. He's the architect of this disastrous decline and fall. They must be talking about replacing him, if not sooner, later, yes?
Well, this has been going on, as you will know, Kevin, for almost as long as Keir Starmer's been Prime Minister. The loss of so many top names, not least Peter Mandelson, which was an unforced error of catastrophic proportions, but, you know, the number of cabinet ministers who've been dumped for nefarious reasons, or allegedly nefarious reasons, they have been a signal of what's going on behind the scenes, the discontent with his leadership, but also the policies that they don't really believe in the Labour Party, and a party which is at odds, frankly, with its members. And Morgan McSweeney, who is the man who masterminded Starmer's miraculous emergence as a potential leader all those years ago, is struggling, I think, to hold everything together.
And of course, we've got the Rachel from Accounts, her budget from hell coming up in November, where it's quite clear she's going to break all of her promises. She's going to tax us left, right and centre, including income tax, we now understand, penny on the pound. So she's going to break that promise. A story came my way last night. I mean, so they need this money. And a story came my way last night that one expenditure is going to be this. And we're talking about foreign aid. This government's going to send £111 million to Pakistan to pay for condoms. It's a family planning program in Pakistan. So she says, oh, we need the money. You know, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to break my promises, but we really need the money. What? To give Pakistan £111 million for condoms? I mean, it's this kind of incoherence that I think is really beginning to tick people off. They've had enough of this. You know, you say you're broke and you need this money, and then we find out you're giving £111 million to Pakistan for condoms, among all sorts of other unnecessary expenditure, of course, constant pay rises for the public sector and so on and so forth. So it's not so much that they need the money, it's what they need the money for. We find out what they're spending it on, and this, of course, is contributing to this government's tremendous unpopularity. Yes, and these condoms for Pakistan aren't even going to stop any cousin marriages out there, is it? The big problem is that they don't know what to do with the money. They know the public sector's forever hungry, and they're feeding it the monster. They're going to have to feed more when these doctors go on strike, because people sympathise with doctors, although they've got this completely wrong. They are asking for far too much after having already been given quite a lot. So the feeding the public sector, offering them the pay rises that they're demanding, encourages them to keep asking for more and going on strike to get it. But the way that the money that we have to give up as taxpayers is being squandered by governments of all colours, not just the Labour Party, although the Labour government is possibly the worst in history, but all governments have decided that they could simply turn on the taps and buy votes through public sector spending. And it isn't working, and the public has woken up to it. Absolutely not. And the other problem with Labour is cultural. It is their continuing kowtowing to the Islamic community to an absurd extent, because they are so obsessed with the Muslim vote. So Nigel Farage has signalled his support for a burqa ban. In fact, he wants to ban all face coverings for security and, I think, cultural reasons. Nobody, I think, in this country or Brits don't like the idea of an article of clothing that signifies women being inferior creatures to men. That's what it's all about. So we don't like it for cultural reasons, but also for security reasons. The Tories characteristically can't make up their mind. Kemi will no doubt make a song and dance of it in about 2 years, saying, I've finally decided we are going to ban the burqa, like she finally decided to leave the ECHR about a year after everyone else. So they can't make up their minds. But of course, Labour won't do anything about the burqa because to ban it might offend the Muslim community, and this sort of them constantly being enthralled to Muslims is a serious problem when it comes to the grooming gang inquiry. The girls, the victims, several of whom I've spoken to this week, 4 have resigned from their role on the victims panel this week, saying that what they wanted the public inquiry to do, quite reasonably in my view, was to focus on the perpetrators, the gang members who are and were, we should say are because they're still operating, mainly Muslim men of Pakistani heritage. And the government has made it clear to these girls, oh, we want to widen the remit. We don't necessarily want to focus in on that. And the girls are going, no, no, no. We do want to focus in on it. Why don't the government want to focus in on the ethnicity and the religion of the perpetrators, of the gang members, because they're Muslims, and that might upset the Muslim vote. This craven pursuit of the Muslim vote is turning this Labour government into a disaster, I think, culturally.
Yes, and just going back to the burqa ban, I think that this is a vote winner for Nigel Farage and Reform, but I think they could win even more votes if they extended it to, say, Deliveroo drivers who ride around looking like some alien species, dressed top to toe in black with masks across their faces and hoodies over their heads and caps. I mean, they cannot be identified as they deliver things to people's homes. I think they're very intimidating and should be banned as well by Deliveroo under instructions from a government. As for the gang rape, which it is, it's not grooming. It's
rape gang, yeah.
These are, I mean, it's a hideous story dating back many years involving many thousands of young girls, and it's still going on right across the country and indeed here in London, despite the protests to the opposite of Genghis Khan in Mayor of London. But
it's Sadiq Khan, Trevor, not Genghis.
Sorry, Sadiq Khan. But the thing is that this is a cover-up from a government which is running scared, as you suggest, from the Muslim votes on which it has relied and depended for years. I mean, it probably wouldn't have had the landslide it now has if it hadn't been for those sections of the community. It relies on them, and they are actually now asserting themselves in a way which means that Labour cannot rely on them because they're setting up their own MPs, and they will probably have a couple of dozen in Parliament after the next election, whatever happens, whoever wins the overall majority. And they will be the tail that wags the dog in Parliament from that moment onwards.
Indeed. Let's quickly finish, if we can, on our old favourite, the migrant crisis, specifically the one in, one out ongoing farce, le farce, as we now call it. So the score is, since we launched this incredible scheme, this deterrent, in early August, that we've sent 46 migrants to France and they've sent 18 back here. Meanwhile, 11,000 migrants have crossed the channel illegally, so it's not working as a deterrent. And of course, we learned this week, hence Le Farce headlines, that one of these migrants that we sent back to France on the one in, one out scheme promptly went back to Calais and got on an illegal rubber dinghy and came back to Britain. And the fact that he was caught coming back to Britain has prompted David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, to say this proves that the one in, one out scheme is working. He actually said is working a treat. David Lammy needs psychiatric help, doesn't he?
Well, he needs a different job altogether, nothing to do with politics, preferably, or any other contact with the public. I think that the current rate, by the time we get rid of this ghastly government, if we can call it that, we will have probably 100 to 150,000 more people in this country from countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan than we had when it took office, or even from this point on. So what are we going to do with them? We can't just... I mean, it would take months and years to deport all of those asylum seekers who, by the very nature of coming across illegally, should have been deprived of the right to claim asylum, which is what they are pretending they're thinking of doing. They will do nothing. We will simply be lumbered for as long as this government is in office with vast numbers of people who are not necessarily friendly to our communities.
Exactly right. Last line, actually. Let's talk about, very quickly, Trevor, if we can, the problem of left-wing judges. I'm just reading a story in today's Telegraph. An asylum seeker with a receding hairline. He was a smoker, stubble, deep voice, visible Adam's apple, receding hairline with grey hair. Came here and said he was a child. Derby City Council, very eagle-eyed, said, well, you look like you're probably a middle-aged guy. You know, you're balding and you're grey hair and you're smoking, your deep voice, stubble. Well, he said, no, I am a child. So he's appealed to the courts. This appeal, as decided by Judge Gaynor Bruce of the Upper Tribunal of the Immigration and Asylum Chamber, has agreed that this bloke is a child. I mean, it's just, we've got a real problem with these idiot judges, haven't we?
He's got to show us that he's done his GCSEs, hasn't he? Yeah. I mean, look, nobody believes these stories except the judges. And
the judges, yes.
They only believe it because that's their political bent. They don't believe in borders themselves. They think that anyone who wants to come should be allowed in. That's the essence of their attitude towards this problem. And nothing is going to be done by this government, not whether Starmer is Prime Minister or whoever takes over from him. And what we've unfortunately landed ourselves with, Kevin, is the worst possible government at the worst possible moment in the history of Britain.
Well, on that upbeat note, Trevor, it's always a privilege to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time. Trevor Kavanagh there, former political editor and current columnist at The Sun. He's right, though, isn't he? We are landed with the worst possible government at the worst possible time. They can't do it, can they? They're just incompetent. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Now, let me know whether you think it's possible to be a child, 14 years old, have a receding hairline, grey hair, Adam's apple, stubble, smoker, and a deep voice. Is it possible to be like that and be 14 years old because an upper tribunal judge thinks that is the case? 03444991000. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Angela Levin, royal biographer. We need to talk about Meghan. We'll talk about Andrew, of course. His travails get worse and worse by the day. But Meghan Markle has lost yet another senior employee. She is now, since Harry and Meghan moved to California, more than 5,000 of their employees have quit. Now, I'm exaggerating, but it is something like 35 workers who toil in their Montecito mansion have quit. A new one has just left, a major communications officer. We'll talk about that next, so stay tuned.
More people driving electric cars, and of course that means fewer people filling their tanks up with petrol. And petrol, the levies on petrol, as your viewers will know, because they're the ones paying it, it's so expensive. That money's going into government. When government loses that money because more people are driving EVs, we do need to think about what the alternative measure looks like. What we want to get to through this cheaper energy commitment is that you make electricity so cheap that your viewers are saying, get me an electric car as quickly as possible.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's talk some royal stories, shall we? Obviously, Prince Andrew, very much still in the news. I wonder how much longer he can cling on to Royal Lodge. I'm more interested. I've never been much... I mean, I'm interested in royal stories, but I've never really cared where he lives. I don't care much about Royal Lodge, but it is, I guess, an interesting saga. I'm more interested in whether or not we should actually tell the King your solution, your compromise to Andrew's titles, that he'll just stop using. It's not good enough. We want an Act of Parliament to actually strip him of the title of the Duke of York, Earl of Windsor, and the Earl of Inverness and Baroness Killier. We actually want Baron, of course. Maybe we'll give him that title. Let's make him Baroness Killier. That'll work. But let's first talk about Meghan. It's extraordinary. She has lost a 10th spin doctor, one of her communications officer, top person, Emily Robinson. She joined Harry and Meghan's team in June. So not that long ago. She's gone. This is the 10th communications chief to leave. And that brings the total of people who've left the employ of Harry and Meghan since they moved to America, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? It's up near 40 now. There's something about Meghan that makes her, I think, a little difficult to work for. I think that picture is emerging. Let's speak to someone who knows Harry very well, because she wrote his book, spent a lot of time with him. Royal biographer Angela Levin. Good morning, Angela. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
Well, first, Meghan. Let's talk about Meghan first. She's lost a big story in the Mail today. She's lost the 10th spin chief. This is a woman called Emily Robinson, who is a veteran communications officer. She knows her stuff, LA-based, and apparently tough as old nails. You know, she can take it. And she has left after less than a year and has taken all reference to the fact she ever worked for Meghan off her LinkedIn biography. So people are saying it must have been a very bruising experience. And as I just said, I think the total number of workers, staff members who've left the employ of Meghan since her and Harry moved to California is up near 40 now. What is it that makes Meghan so difficult to work for? What is it?
Well, my opinion is that she blames other people all the time for the mistakes that she makes. But also, she thinks she's perfect. She thinks she's much better than anybody. So she will make a decision and then she blames it onto them. She won't listen. So I'm sure that this woman who worked for the Crown for several years, so she'd have to be pretty tough with that, nor would she particularly like the royal family that much. So she would be full of energy, I imagined. And but she just blames everyone else for her own being. I mean, she thinks she's absolutely the most amazing woman ever. And when she does yes, she does. You may laugh. When she talks with people, she feels that they should absolutely be thrilled that she's there. So you've got somebody who thinks so high of herself that actually when something goes wrong, she takes it out on a member of staff. I mean, we've heard that she's been unpleasant with members of staff ever since she became into the royal family. But actually, it's now that she does it herself, it just gets worse and worse. I looked up some of the things, you see, she's just had a very bad time. One of them was Paris Fashion Week.
Yep.
When on the way back, she drove very closely to the late Princess Diana's tunnel. I think she did that herself deliberately, because why was she filming it? If you just want to see it and you've got any sense of behaviour, you don't take a film and then put it up so everyone can see. It's a ludicrous thing. But she would probably blame somebody for her doing that, you see.
Cynics, Angela, say that, because Meghan always used to say, well, we can never go to Paris because obviously it's got terrible memories for Harry. It's where her mother died. Cynics say that when she suddenly turned up at Paris Fashion Week, uninvited, that she decided that because of the controversial nature of Paris, that she went there because it would make headlines, that she deliberately went there to get on the front pages. So it was a kind of desperate thing. And then, as you say, if when she went past the tunnel where Diana so tragically died back in was it 98, with her bare feet up on the back seat of a car, of her limousine, if she did that deliberately, then that is a terrible, terrible thing. But
well, listen. I investigated where her hotel was, and the hotel she booked. Now, Meghan is absolutely particular about these things. She wouldn't ask anyone else to do it because she wanted the best one. She took this hospital 3 minutes away from the tunnel, right? To get to where the Paris fashion work was taking place was 24 minutes.
Really? Blimey. So she could have got a hotel much closer to the event.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. And I thought if she knew that it was right there, she would avoid it, but she didn't. She was late when she arrived, especially that she hadn't been given any invitation. She did this long trip there. And I thought, why do that for yourself? Why do it? So people are still saying, oh, no, she's so lovely, she didn't do that sort of thing. But I don't believe it.
And then Harry let it be known that he was furious that the media was using Paris as a stick to beat Meghan on the head with. And I kept thinking, well, here's an idea then, Meghan and Harry. Don't go to Paris. How about that? Just a thought. Just before you go, Angela, your thoughts on Prince Andrew. As I say, the Royal Lodge saga trundles on. I think in the fullness of time he'll probably struggle to hang on to that massive mansion in Windsor Great Park. But what I'd like to ask you is this. This is what I think, and I know a lot of people agree with me. The King came up with a compromise about Andrew. He said, I'll tell you what, Andy, how about this? You just say you won't call yourself the Duke of York or the Earl of Inverness anymore, or the Baron Killalea. Just don't use them, and we'll move on. So it sounded quite dramatic. It now transpires that, by the way, the King also let Andrew put out his own statement in which absurdly he talked about his sense of duty and his loyalty to his family, as if that ever mattered to him one bit. But it turns out that the people of this country, and I agree with them, more than 80% say, no, Your Majesty, no, Charles, this is not enough. He said, oh, I don't want to bother Parliament, they're too busy to worry about an act of Parliament to take away Andrew's title.
Tell you.
Well, the people do want to bother with that act, and we need to do it, don't we?
Yes. What it is that the late Queen adored Andrew. She really did, and she couldn't bear to handle anything that was really wrong with him. And I think that the king was so upset about upsetting her that she didn't want to encourage his late mother to say, wipe it out because it's terrible. She didn't want to hurt her. Of course, she couldn't because she was no longer alive, but he felt that it was his what he should do is to be as gentle as possible so that the Queen would not have been upset.
Yeah, but I mean, respect to her late Majesty, of course, but it's not enough, Charles. It's not enough.
Well, it's not. It's ridiculous. And the behaviour is appalling.
Yeah.
It's beyond appalling. It's disgraceful.
He's a liar. He's a proven liar now. So when he says, I did not sexually abuse Virginia Giuffre, I say he's lying because he is a liar. He lied about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. He said it was over. It wasn't. It's been proved. He's just a venal liar. And as such, he should not hang on to these titles of respect and privilege. Angela, excellent to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time. Angela Levin there, royal biographer. Next up, we'll talk to Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. There's been a fascinating interview with Axel Rudikabana, you know, the Southport Killers head teacher. He says he was sinister, unpredictable and most unusual. I'll bet. We'll talk about that and other crime stories after the break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In the studio, it is former Met Police detective Mike Neville. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, good.
Well, first of all, fascinating interview with the former headmaster of that little monster, Axel Rudikabana, the Southport killer. He said, I mean, some of this, I guess, is not that surprising, but the headmaster, his name is, head teacher, Joanne Hodson, she says that he was the most sinister pupil I have ever seen. She went on to say he was sinister, unpredictable, and most unusual. And she always had a sense of dread that he was building up to something. Now, you know, respect to her, she obviously spotted this.
Yeah.
But it just feeds into this picture, you know. The Prevent scheme didn't think he was worth looking into. The authorities, seeing this sinister, troublesome guy, just let him carry on, and the rest is history.
Well, this head teacher, she obviously has a lot of experience. That school is designed for like disrupted pupils, and what strikes me, Kevin, is that she wrote in her report, this boy is sinister, and she was contacted by the authorities, who told her, you've got to remove that word. You can't describe a child as sinister. You've got to say inappropriate. And I think we've got a word for people who use the word inappropriate, and it begins with W. Generally,
work.
So well, even worse than that, I think.
Yeah. but WW.
But. What strikes me is she made every effort to inform the authorities, who then tried to dumb down what she was saying, all that experience. And then you've got the Prevent scheme letting us down as well. And I've got to say, Kevin, you know, I'm a crime historian. I've researched crime. He stabbed those little girls over 100 times. The wickedness of Axel Ruder Cabana is beyond belief. And the authorities, I've no doubt as well that this alleged racism has a part to play, that we see all the time, that the people who are afraid to report somebody who's black or Asian, as we saw at Manchester Arena and things like that, that all this plays into the authorities letting us down.
Yeah, and we need more teachers like Joanne Hodgson, and we need more people to listen to people like Joanne Hodgson, who had the sort of courage to rise above.
What we need, though, is the name, because it says that the authorities, basically, the school authorities, told her to dumb that word down, report down. Who was the person? Let's name that name, and let's shame this person who did that ridiculous thing.
Very, very. She told Miss Hodgson of her memorable first meeting with Rudy Cabana, who'd come from another school because he got kicked out for carrying a knife. She said to him, "Why did you take a knife into your previous school?" She said, "He looked me in the eyes and said to use it." She said, "This is the only time in my career that a pupil has said this to me or behaved in a manner so devoid of any remorse." She spotted that this guy had a potential for serious evil, and no one listened to him.
And also, she mentions that the parents were there at that meeting, and they didn't seem concerned.
They thought they had a good kid on their hands.
They didn't seem concerned about it. And the trouble is, all the time, it just sums up, who are we bringing into this country? Who is here? All these wicked killers, where do they come from? You know, it's just beggars belief that we see people coming across the channel, we don't know who they are. How many more Axel Ruder Cabanas have we imported into this nation?
Yeah, Mrs. Hodgson also said, I mean, she's got a good way with words. She said that she had a visceral sense of dread that this kid would do something. She thought to one of his peers, but it was a lot worse than that. So yeah, I mean, that is the point. We need to listen to the Miss Hodgsons of this world. You know, this is a teacher who had the courage to rise above all this racism and you know, cultural pressure. Oh, don't, he's the son of migrants and all that kind of stuff. But our culture is, oh, it's the son of a migrant. Don't you dare be racist towards him.
Absolutely.
And the rest is history. What do you make of this Tory warning, Mike, that a massive crime wave is heading for Britain and the public will be in danger? They're obviously referring to Labour's plans to lock up fewer criminals. I mean, you know, was the old Tory maxim, wasn't it? Prison works. And it does, and yet Labour are trying to eradicate it.
Well, it was the Tory mantra under Michael Howard many years ago that the current protestations of the Tory party you got to dismiss, because in the sense that they're just as guilty as Labour of letting criminals out of prison, in my view. But the facts are, my experience as a detective and having spoken to criminals and knowing criminals, is that the one thing they fear is prison. No criminal fears a community service order. Most of these things are a joke. So we're told, oh, well, what we'll do, house arrest, we'll tag them. I did a Freedom of Information Act request, and I found out that only 25% of these tag breaches, where the tag goes off and says you're out and when you shouldn't be, whatever else, only 25% result in action. So the police go round and might say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. They don't arrest them or anything like that. So it's an absolute joke. The only way to prevent crime is lock up criminals, and what you have is these what they call hyper-prolific criminals. These are people with 50 or more convictions. Now, bearing in mind, the police solve about 5% of crime if you're lucky. So if you've got 50 convictions, it means you've done thousands of crimes. The only way to deal with them is lock them up and throw away the key. They're never rehabilitated. They'll just carry on doing their own wicked deeds. So
yeah, and the way I see it, you know, we obviously are in urgent need of more prisons.
Yes.
Labour, I think, are kind of kicking that can down the road to let more and more prisoners out and come up with their new woke plans to lock crooks up. Oh, you know...
they're victims. They're victims of society, according to Labour. That's the problem.
Yeah, you know, oh, well, you know, it's tough to build prisons. Well, what about some of these air bases they've been using for migrants? You know, you could quickly convert them. And then what I would do, I don't usually advocate giving public servants more money, but raise the money for prison officers, make it an attractive career, staff the hell out of these new prisons and put more and more people in jail. You're going to break the law, you go to jail. As you say, it is not a deterrent to say, right, I'm going to put an electric tag on your ankle. Oh, wow, well, I won't do that again. It's nonsense.
Well, and also I found out that every year there's like 1 million hours of this unpaid work that simply isn't done. They don't turn up. And what the police do, what the government do is say, we'll have these tags, we'll have this unpaid hours. What they don't do is put the people in to enforce it. It's all right putting electronic tags on people, but who's going to check that they're actually complying with it? And they load that on the police. The police have got enough to do as it is, and so these people just continue offending, and what they do is they bring misery. And the politicians, they let them out, but they never have to live next to them. They let them out and they have to live in a council estate in London, in Stoke, in Bolton, in Middlesbrough, and they bring misery to the people who just want to live their life and get by. And that's the wickedness of these politicians.
Last question to you, moving on. You're a former London detective. What do you make of Sadiq Khan's refusal to accept that we've got a rape gang problem here in the capital city? He just sticks his fingers in his ears when he's questioned at the London Assembly. What about the rape gang? He actually said, I'm sorry, I don't know, what do you mean? Do you mean county lines? No, we mean the rape gang problem. You must have seen it in the on the telly, maybe read it in the papers, Mr. Khan. He is doing exactly what the authorities did in the north all those years ago when they turned their back and pretended it wasn't happening. He's on thin ice here. He's in danger, isn't he?
He is. Who can believe there is not a problem? If those problems exist in Telford, in Oldham, in Rochdale, in Rotherham, they must be 10 times as big here. Crime in London is half of the whole country. Half of the whole country. So I would suggest there's a massive problem here. And what they're doing all the time is, like the Labour Party, the government, they're kicking the can down the road. They don't want to accept. They're not Asian rape gangs. It's a Muslim issue. And that is it. And there are big problems. So I imagine, I'll put money on the table, there are big problems in places like Tower Hamlets. And it's all going to come out. And what will happen is young girls who've been raped, assaulted, they've been thrown to the wind because no one wants to look at the awfulness of the problem.
Well, he stands accused, the London Mayor, Mr. Khan, of playing politics with this. And if he is playing politics with this, we're talking about young, vulnerable girls being sexually abused. If he's playing politics with that, that's just evil.
But the whole establishment has played politics with it. He's
doing what they
exactly. What has happened before will happen again. And as I say, London is so massive in crime terms that you cannot ignore this. And there will be. Why has it not been uncovered yet? When the problem is uncovered, it'll be awful.
Absolutely, and the Mayor Khan needs to, it needs to own up. I mean, this is serious. Can't pretend it's not happening.
You watch him with a question. He never answers questions. If you ask him a question, he'll just come up with some glib reply, like Starmer does in Parliament. There's never an answer to a question, just glib replies.
Exactly, and when he was quizzed at the London Assembly about it, he acted like he had no idea what the concept of a rape gang problem was, like he'd never heard of the issue. That's disgusting. That's a disgrace. We're talking about kids. We're talking about kids being sexually abused. You can't play politics with this. You can't pretend it's not happening. It's what happened before. Unbelievable. Mike Neville, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure, mate. Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. Next up, it's my friend Ali Ross, the amazing TV critic at The Sun. Stick around.
We have done remarkably well. Look, 4 years ago, we were polling at 1.7%, and last night, or this morning, we got 36%. That is a meteoric rise by any kind of metric. Actually, I think that's pretty unparalleled in modern British political history. So we did extremely well. Of course, we are disappointed not to do that. But what it does show, when you look at those figures, Labour absolutely decimated, going down to 11%, and the Tories wiped off the board. Quite frankly, they might as well pack up and go home.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's Friday, so you want to know, this is hang on. Look, the cameras are all over the place. Hang on, I'll be back in a minute. Hello, there we are. Hello, no, I'm a long way away. Well, look, this is... Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin. I'm the one in the very far corner of the studio. Here we are, finally. Hello, Ali Ross. This is the funniest column of the week. It's Ali Ross's TV column in The Sun, brilliantly written. I recommend it every Friday in The Sun. And by an extraordinary coincidence, guess who my next guest is? It's Isabel Oakeshott. No, it's Ali Ross. Hello, Ali. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kevin. I just thought that was a spontaneous tribute to me there, and there was nothing to do with me actually being the next guest.
Yeah, it was spontaneous. So then they told me while I was paying tribute to you that you were waiting to come on the show. So what a happy coincidence, as I say. Now, let's first of all talk. I'm sorry, I'm a bit upset today, Ali, as you can imagine, because the dynamic duo, the dazzling duo, Claudia Winkleman and Tess Daly, are leaving Strictly Come Dancing. I think... is it after 21 years or something like that? Anyway, after a long, long time. I gather Tess Daly, she's moving on to Panorama, is that right? And, of course, Claudia will carry on with the Traitors, the Celebrity Traitors or whatever the hell it is. So what does that mean, though, them leaving Strictly? Are they leaving the sinking ship? They are, aren't they?
Well, it's got that feeling about it. I was watching daytime telly yesterday. I won't name the person responsible, but he said it's like a JFK moment, isn't it? You'll just remember where you were. Steady on, mate.
JFK. In the future, everyone will remember exactly where they were when they learned that Claudia Winkleman and Tess Daly were leaving Strictly Come Dancing. But are the dazzling duo, they're deserting the sinking ship, aren't they?
Well, the graph is certainly pointing down now for the show. Celebrity Traitors is, ironically, with Claudia in charge of that, has put it in sharp focus that it's just no longer top dog at the BBC, as it has been for years. And there was such an arrogance about the show as well, and it thought it could do without decent bookings. And you can see where that's led it this year. It's just a flat experience watching it. It feels like it goes on far too long. And you can accuse I'm a Celebrity of many things, but Nigel Farage on a couple of years ago, it always tries, it understands the importance of the contestants, and Strictly just really fancied itself. It thought it didn't have to try. And I think time has caught up with it. It just feels stale, and these two are probably getting out while the going is still reasonably good. Although, as you say, I don't think Newsnight's going to be knocking on Tess's door.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, on the off chance that anybody's remotely interested, who do you think might replace Tess and Claude?
Well, I've seen, of all people, Mel and Sue suddenly being...
Oh, my God.
If you want to finish that show off, that's the appointment you should make. I'm sure it will be incredibly diverse, equal and inclusive when they come to... But I've written just an aside because of the day it broke. I couldn't write too much about it, but I said, if you want to take it in a different direction and actually make it funny, because Strictly's never made the most of the fact it can be really funny, get Graham Norton to do it, because he's far more talented than any of the names that have been mentioned in the betting.
I've got an idea. How about this? Because the BBC would like this.
You're putting yourself forward here, Kevin.
Yeah. I'm a natural for it. I've always loved Strictly, so I'm a natural for it. I think Claire Balding and Gary Lineker as a double up. What do you think?
Well, if you want to kill it off, that would probably work quicker than Mel and Sue or some of the other names. I don't know if I could bring myself to watch it, even in a professional capacity, if those two were in charge.
Yeah. Talking about, you know, what I've said this to you before, being a former TV critic, not in your league, of course, Ali, but one of my great joys in life now is not having to watch TV.
Yeah.
And
what's it like out there, Kev?
My wife has started to watch Celebrity Traitors, so I've watched about 3 minutes, and already I hate it with a passion. You know, I just it's just torture. But of course it's very, very popular. Let's talk about your column today, every Friday. You are zoning in on woke jokes on The Last Leg, that dreadful woke comedy show, alleged comedy show on Channel 4. The normally very funny Frank Skinner is in your sights. Tell me the crime that Frank has. I mean, I think he's a funny guy, but
Frank Skinner is a funny guy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dwelt on his weird road to Damascus conversion to wokery. But he was on last week, and whether it's the surroundings or he genuinely has changed and is no longer considering comedy as a career, I don't know. But he suddenly went into this rant about how spitting image was wrong to turn Paddington Bear into a coke-snorting South American gangster, because it's just wrong, because he's such a positive image of a migrant.
Of a migrant.
Yeah. I'd been to the pub, so I watched it again the next morning just to make sure that I wasn't seeing things. This was the same Frank Skinner that was, I think I've called him the godfather of laddism there, but is now pulling up the drawbridge for anyone else to make.
Well, I think he's been infected by being around those losers, Josh Widdicombe, Alex Brooker, Adam Hills on the dreadful Last Leg. I mean, their wokery is obviously infectious, and poor old Frank's caught it.
Yeah, it's a real echo chamber, that, Stuart. You get a round of applause. You say anything left-wing, they'll go nuts for it. I think you would struggle in that environment, to be honest, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, you'd be no slouch yourself. I think you and I
would not.
Yeah, look, we should start our own left-wing comedy show. Kev and Ali, I think it'll work. Ali, gotta go. Great to talk to you. We've got to have a drink very soon. It's been too long. Ali Ross, a brilliant TV critic at The Sun. Read his column today and every Friday. I've got to go to break now. When we come back after the news, it is the great Isabel Oakeshott who will join me to discuss the big stories of the day, so stick around.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
welcome back. This is the final hour of mid-morning. I suppose it's early afternoon now. At 1 o'clock, Ian Collins will take over the helm of the Good Ship Talk. But in this hour, I've been harping on all morning about foreign aid. We're going to go through some of the doozies of all time. As I say, I think my favourite is the Ethiopian Spice Girls teaching the Chinese how to grow rice. That's a good one. And you think about it, you think, why are we giving millions of pounds to India, for example? They've got their own space programme. You know, it's ridiculous. Foreign aid, particularly in these difficult times, what is it all about? You know, think about it. She's going to tax you. Old Robert Reeves is going to tax the hell out of you. She's going to tax the backside off you, all of us. And then you find out, so what's the government doing with all this money that they're taking of us? Oh, they're giving £111 million to Pakistan so that Pakistan can buy condoms for a family planning programme. And it's like, you know, I can't really use the language that I want to use when I want to say what I think about this. But you let me know what you think. We're going to take some calls soon. 0344 499 1000. As I say, it's a family show. Keep it clean. Right, let's go to, first of all, though, before we get to foreign aid, we're also going to talk later in the show to one of the protesters. There's going to be a lot of protests in the weekend, a growing concern around the country about the close proximity of asylum seeker hotels to schools. More and more parents very concerned about this, safety on the streets, women as well, of course. So we're going to talk to one of the protesters later in the show. But before we get to any of that, let's talk politics, let's talk big stories. This is very strange for me to welcome to the show at this ungodly early hour, Talks International editor Isabel Oakeshott. Hi, Isabel.
Oh, hi, good afternoon. Yes, it's very odd, isn't it? I'm looking out at blue sky and sunshine, not the usual pitch black.
Exactly right. Exactly. You know me. I'm Dracula. I don't thrive in these conditions. Well, let's get going. First of all, your take, Isabel, on Labour's humiliation in Caerphilly. I was telling Trevor Kavanagh earlier. I happened to look up. I was watching Sky News. So this is pretty damn seismic that Labour have lost Caerphilly. It points to a disaster in the future for Labour, that this stronghold, Wales, which has been, you know, solid Labour forever, looks like that's all going to change. Reform did very well. They didn't win, but they came a very creditable second. Reform, I think, could do even better come the local elections in May and then the general election going forward. Sky News' take on it was Nigel Farage nowhere to be seen as Reform lose Caerphilly.
Oh, right, OK. I mean, that's a kind of pathetic level of political analysis, isn't it? I mean, there's no point in pretending that Reform wasn't disappointed not to win. You know, all parties want to win. And I think the Reform operation on the ground there thought that they were just ahead. And, you know, you can never tell, particularly not with by-elections. You can never really tell. But they hoped and they didn't expect to win, but they certainly felt that they were in a good position to win. And in the end, they lost out by a few thousand votes. Not as you said, a very, very good result. But, you know, of course, the party would like to have won. But really, the most important thing in those results is what happened to the Labour Party, you know, slumping in at third. And the Tories, I mean, sure, it's not exactly a traditional Tory heartland, but I think they were on something absolutely humiliating, like 2%. So they will just want nobody to be talking about that at this point. I think it is a reality check, I suppose, about the great reform juggernaut. It's not that the reform juggernaut is juddering to a halt. It's that new parties have to work so much harder than the established parties to get their ground game working. You know, the other parties have had literally decades or more to build up their operations, to build up their data, you know, to build up their troops, as it were, and their battle plans. And Reform is doing this not quite from a standing start, because the party's been building in Wales for some time. But they haven't got, years of experience on the ground there, never mind decades, never mind, a century or more. So if you look at the result in that context, it's actually an outstanding result for Reform, albeit they didn't quite get over the line.
And the beginning of a death knell, I think, for Keir Starmer. I mean, Labour, behind closed doors in Downing Street in Westminster, Labour will be considering how much longer they can go on with this guy in charge, because although they didn't quite win in Caerphilly, it seems pretty certain that Reform could do incredibly well at the local elections in May, and essentially by the general election, on the basis that it should be in 29 or even 27 perhaps, that Reform could become the predominant party in Wales. And as I say, that is seismic. That is Labour falling apart at the seams. And there's only one person you point the finger at, isn't there? And that is Mr. Starmer, who's useless.
Well, I mean, ultimately, the buck always does stop with the Prime Minister or the leader of a party. And, I don't spend a lot of time in Wales. I'm going to be honest about that. So I can't
Where is it, by the way? It's to the west somewhere, isn't it? Was it Ali G said Wales is 200 miles from England. But
yeah, right.
Yeah, but anyway, no, we're joking. But interesting political change, though.
And not that long ago, I did write about what's happened in the city centre of Cardiff and the prioritisation. In fact, we did it on your show, Kev. The prioritisation of outsiders, bluntly, people who've come from overseas for very nice new housing, quite unconventional, kind of almost prefab container style housing. It was pretty nice. You remember we did that piece
Yes, I do remember.
The Ghost Village. And then we also spoke to many, many homeless people, including veterans, British citizens, who've just basically been left behind. And that is the story in Wales, also massive incompetence of running of the NHS and all the stuff we usually see with socialist-run administrations. So very, very interesting set of results there, and with some pretty dark, foreboding signals, I think, for the main parties.
Indeed. Keir Starmer, speaking of that man, well, so many issues we could discuss surrounding Sir Keir, but he tweets something every day. Most of his tweets, beg a belief. They're so banal and ridiculous. But this one centres on digital ID. This is so Labour, isn't it? It's so Keir Starmer. It is the hatred for the digital ID scheme around the country is palpable. We've seen one of the biggest petitions ever in British history, 3 million signatures and rising, protesting about the idea, the prospect of a dystopian sort of papers, please Britain. These cards that you'll need to get access to the NHS, to see your doctor, probably to get bank accounts, everything. You'll need social services, the police when they pull you up, papers please, show me. There seems to be a discrepancy, come with me please. Or Soviet style socialist control of the people. We hate the idea. It's not British. We don't need it, we don't want it, and yet Starmer presses on, because he's a socialist, and Tony Blair told him we need digital IDs. So this is what he's tweeted today. 2 tweets. The first one, this is it. This is it. Digital ID will bring the UK into the modern age. That's it. Oh, thanks, Keir. Thanks. Yeah, well, brilliantly explained. Look at the second one. Listen to this. I'll do it in his voice. I recently spoke with someone buying a house with her partner. She told me that she had to pay just to verify who she was. With digital ID, that could be done in seconds and wipe out the costs. Digital ID will save you time and money. Well, if that does cost you money and does cost me a bit of time, I'll take that option. I don't care. I'll pay the money. I don't want your damn cards.
Well, I don't understand why that house buyer had to pay money to verify who she was. I mean, I've been through this process a number of times for various reasons and was pretty horrified by, whether you're buying or selling, the faffing around of proving who you are is dragging down our economy without a doubt. The sheer amount of time consumed with so-called KYC, know your client, obligations now on everybody from accountants to lawyers to the whole financial sector is totally ludicrous. But why would digital ID be better in that circumstance than a passport? A passport is enough normally to tick that particular bit of the very onerous KYC obligations. It's not the answer. Digital ID cards, I think, has some merits. You and I disagree with that. But it's not the answer to, I've just had a hard time proving who I am to buy a house.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, the point is whether, you're not quite as sort of vehemently against them as I am. But the point is, the people of this country don't want them. This is another piece of proof that Keir Starmer is just like the world's worst politician. If people don't want something, don't make them have it. It's pretty damn simple. It's not rocket science. So he carries on with this awful scheme just because Tony Blair wants it. It's socialist control. We don't need it. We have never had it. It will not perform any function that we can't already do with our passports, our national insurance numbers, etc., etc. If we could just move on and talk about the migrant crisis, that we've covered the one in, one out scheme, which David Lammy says is working a treat.
Brilliant, yeah.
It's not. I want to talk to you, though, about two-tier justice, the way it is emerging more and more, that when a migrant or an asylum seeker is standing in the dock, they get preferential treatment from judges. This week in Surrey at Staines Magistrates Court on Wednesday, a Syrian migrant who sexually assaulted 3 women was spared jail, got a 2-year sentence, suspended for 6 months, walked out of the court. Now, once maybe suspended sentence. Twice, getting a bit dodgy. 3 times, jail. There's no other option, and yet that guy walked out of court. Also, a Sudanese migrant, aged 30, attacked 2 security guards and told them he would teach them a lesson after he jumped train station barriers. He's spared jail. And my favourite, this is another one of these Guardian reading immigration tribunal judges. I can give you her name, Judge Gaynor Bruce of the Upper Tribunal of the Immigration and Asylum Chamber. This guy, right, he's a Syrian migrant. He turns up and Derby City Council, when he said, I'm a child, I'm only just 16. Derby City Council, there's no flies on them. They took a look at him and they said, well, hang on, you've got a receding hair, and what hair you do have is grey. You've got stubble all over your face. You've got a deep voice. You've got a visible Adam's apple, and you smoke like a chimney. We don't think you are a child. Seems like a fair kind of conclusion to come to. Yeah. Well, he appealed against this, and Judge Gaynor Bruce of the Upper Tribunal of the Immigration and Asylum Chamber said, no, I agree, you are a child. I mean, what the hell?
I mean, this is not. And do we know ultimately has his age actually been ascertained?
Well, no, he's been accepted that he's 16 years old because, of course,
it's obviously nonsense. It's obviously nonsense,
yeah.
And there are very straightforward biological ways of proving this. I mean, I think what they normally do is some kind of scan of people's palms. I'm sure there are many other ways to establish whether someone's 16 or in fact 36. What a complete joke. I mean, this is reminding me out here in the Middle East lately for various reasons. I was on the phone to, I don't know what it was, a bank or something, and I wanted for various reasons to be taken as a man, but my voice gave it away straight away.
Yeah.
And they were having none of it. They're like, ma'am, you're not a man.
There are many things I could believe of you, Isabel, but being a man, I think, is stretching it a bit.
But then they're not messing around, there's no, oh, might they be trans, no. He's not a man and we're just going to tell us so.
But seriously, what were these 3 examples I gave you? It happens all the time.
I just want to be clear, by the way, I wasn't trying to break the law.
No, of course, I would never accuse you of that. But this is 2-tier justice. If it's an asylum seeker, if it's a migrant, it seems they're getting lenient treatment, more lenient treatment than others. There's something going on here.
Yeah, I also wanted to flag up a story which I thought you may have talked about earlier on in the show, but I thought would really interest you, which is about what happened. It's to do with the Axel Ruda-Cabana inquiry and a very serious revelation that came out of that yesterday, which is that when one of his teachers flagged up that he was the most sinister.
We've just done that. This was his head teacher.
And it was battered away because that's racial profiling. Well, no, it's not. It's just the actual truth of someone who was bright enough to see that this guy had all the potential to go down a very, very, very bad route. And this is what's happened, isn't it, in so many of these cases? Oh, better not upset that person because they're from a particular demographic.
Yeah, this was his new head teacher, Joanne Hodson, who told this public inquiry. She tried to flag up that she had a sense of dread about this guy. She said, why did you have a knife? Because he got kicked out of his previous school. Why did you carry a knife at your previous school? He said to use it. And she said this is the only time in her career that a pupil has said this to me or behaved in a manner so devoid of any remorse that he was sinister. His parents thought he was a good boy. And she was filled with a sense of dread that he would do something terrible. She flagged it all up and they said, no, that sounds racist to us. That's a disgrace, isn't it?
It really is, and it links to the whole Pakistani grooming gangs, and the political left have so much responsibility to bear for this, and they continue to have that responsibility. They've still not stopped shrieking racist to anyone who makes any observation whatsoever that's critical of somebody from a different ethnic minority or heritage, and there's just so much baggage around it now, isn't there? And good people are trying to do their jobs in calling out and warning and, flagging things up, whatever type of awful behavior it may be. And let's be clear, plenty of white people are absolutely as capable of doing terrible things. But what they don't get, hopefully in most cases, is any kind of free pass or lenient treatment.
Yeah, I think we should look at this inquiry, look at what Ms Hodson said and think about this. There are decent people trying to flag up issues and being suppressed under this banner terror of Islamophobia or racism, the mechanisms to shut down sensible discourse and sensible debate. And we should organise a sea change and start listening to people like Miss Hodson, who's obviously a very good teacher. Isabel, great to talk to you. We'll talk again next week. Take care now. That was Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International Editor. We'll take some calls after this break. So 0344 499 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
for the government. It's a crisis for the thousands of victims who've been through this, Rakib. Where do they go from here, do you think?
Well, I think there needs to be three key things that the Labour government has to do if it wants to shore up public confidence in the national statutory inquiry into grooming gangs, but ultimately restore trust among the victims and survivors of such heinous sexual crimes. I think one is that I think that Jess Phillips needs to be fired as safeguarding minister.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I was just talking to Isabel Oakeshott and indeed Trevor Kavanagh and Layla Cunningham earlier. We were talking about, the kind of pretty seismic result of the by-election in Caerphilly, which Plaid Cymru won, the Welsh Party, but Reform were a pretty close second. And the point is that Caerphilly, and indeed all of Wales, has been Labour since the year dot. Caerphilly's never not been Labour. So Labour were just thrashed, knocked into third place. And people predict that come the local elections, the general local elections in May, that Labour could be wiped off the Welsh political map. And the concerns and the fears are really stirring in Labour towers, and people are now saying Keir Starmer's got to go. Now, Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Manchester, of course, who launched a recent sort of semi-bid to take over the leadership of the party, well, he's a part of a group called Mainstream. So a Labour faction, Mainstream, backed by Andy Burnham, has warned Keir Starmer that his time is short after the party suffered a humiliating by-election. So that's Andy Burnham and his group, Mainstream, effectively telling Keir Starmer, your time is short. Mainstream, it's a soft Labour group, warned that Labour will be wiped out in the Welsh Parliament elections next May unless Keir Starmer has a major reset. In a stinging broadside at Sir Keir's record to date, Mainstream added, time is short. We promised the British people a decade of national renewal. Their patience is wearing thin and their faith in Labour is slipping away. There you have it. Keir Starmer's in deep trouble, folks, for that result last night alone. Come May, when it's likely that Reform will sweep the board in Wales, that's got to be it. This guy, if you're a Labour supporter, you might have noticed I'm not, by the way, but if you are a Labour supporter, you need to dump Keir Starmer. In fact, the whole country needs to dump Keir Starmer. It's not I don't like his politics. I don't like Labour politics. It's not the point. This guy's incompetent. He's an incompetent loser. And Labour know it now. They've got to get rid of him. Right, we could take a couple of calls. Let's go to Scott in Essex. Hi, Scott. You want to talk about 1 in, 1 out? It's a good scheme, isn't it?
It's a wonderful scheme, but I believe we should actually get its name right.
What's that? 11,000 in, 1 out or something?
Well, no, it's more to a case of if you say 1 in, 1 out, someone comes in, someone goes out. It sounds really brilliant. It's 1 out, 1 in plus dependents. Yeah. We have a tidal wave coming in, and every time we try to move one person out, we get one person and dependents back. It's equivalent to being in a boat that's sinking. Every bale of water you throw out, some idiot's throwing 2 bales of water in.
Yeah, it never made any sense numerically, because what we actually want to do in this country is reduce the number of migrants, the number of asylum seekers. This country is officially full, so we need to reduce the number. So when they come up with a scheme, which is basically let's play swap a foreigner with France, you end up, you don't numerically achieve anything at all, because all you're saying is we give you one and you give what? It's like the hokey cokey. You give us one back. So it doesn't work in that respect. But what it's supposed to do, Scott, is act as a deterrent. Well, since it started, this stupid scheme, it is stupid, in early August, 11,000 migrants have come across the channel illegally. So it just doesn't work. It isn't a deterrent. So why are we continuing? They even want to expand it to Germany and the Netherlands and Belgium. Why?
So they can get more immigrants in from other countries. We're only sending them back to France at the moment. We go back to Germany and they'll be sending their immigrants over to here as well.
Oh, good. That's what I mean, yeah. It's just ridiculous, Scott. This scheme it's an embarrassment to this government. It's an embarrassment to this country. I don't know why they continue with it. It's baffling. It's useless. It's a joke. Scott, good call. Thank you very much. So Scott in Essex. Let's quickly talk to Matthew in Bolton. Hello, Matthew. You want to talk about the grooming gangs? What would you like to say?
Yeah, afternoon, Kevin. I was going to nominate a few planks of the week, but they've asked me to stay on the topic of grooming gangs.
Right.
Or rape gangs, sorry. I keep saying grooming gangs. That's how we've been conditioned, you see.
Right.
I want.
Yeah, they're rape gangs. They're not grooming gangs.
Yeah,
That's a euphemism.
they're rape gangs.
Yeah.
But it's how we've been conditioned by the media. That's how they were reported from the very start.
We used to go along here at Talk. We used to call it because everyone called it the grooming gang. I think I was one of the vanguard who just said, well, let's just stop calling it that. Let's call it what it is, rape gangs. Yeah. And that is, to be fair, that is catching on, but they're not grooming gangs.
It's nothing to be proud of. I mean, it's nothing to be proud of, but it's what they factually are.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly nothing to be proud of. As a nation, it's something to be ashamed of, because we haven't done anything to stop it. It's still going on, especially in London, where the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, pretends it isn't, and that's a scandal.
So I wanted to say, Kevin, that I'm against an inquiry.
Oh, yeah? Why is that, Matthew?
Yeah, because I think it should be superseded by a criminal investigation.
Well, I think, in a sense, the two should go hand in hand. They should be parallel universes, if you see what I mean. I think that some of the people that they ought to get on the witness stand for this inquiry, when it finally gets going, sometime next year, we hope, if we're lucky. The delays in itself is a scandal. But, so we're going to be putting on the stand, hopefully, the people who turned their backs, the people who turned a blind eye to what was going on. Coppers, senior coppers, social workers, teachers, local politicians. We'll put them on the witness stand, and I think that quite a lot of these people deserve also to be criminally prosecuted. You're absolutely right. Well, I don't think that prosecuting people means that we don't have to have an inquiry as well. Normally, I'm a bit circumspect about inquiries because they cost a lot of money and they never seem to achieve very much. But this is about justice for 250,000 vulnerable girl victims of this scourge, and I think we do need an inquiry.
Yes, I completely agree, and I hope. I think Jess Phillips is a small cog in a bigger cog, and she is only a small part of the problem. There's so many more areas that are involved in this as a cover-up.
Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of the victims say, that this Labour public inquiry, if you like, is shaping up to be some kind of cover-up in which they don't want to point the finger at the members of the gangs. You know, they don't want to talk about the culprits, and these are, of course, predominantly, mainly Muslim men of Pakistani heritage. Labour doesn't want to point the finger at that, and unless we do that, there's no point at all. Labour's a problem. They don't want this inquiry. We have to keep on at them, and we have to make sure that we have a proper inquiry with the right remit. Matthew, good to talk, mate. Thank you for a good call. Matthew in Bolton. Right, let's go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk about foreign aid, so stick around for that.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, we're going to talk about foreign aid. I've been harping on about it for the whole show. We've got some great examples for you. Not necessarily all Labour, but Labour love all this stuff. You know, we've given billions of pounds. I think our current budget is about £10 billion a year we give to foreign countries for often very ludicrous reasons. Well, look, let's get my guest on first, and then we'll chat about it. He's head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism, my friend Andrew Allison. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Kevin. How are you today?
I'm very, very well. Now, I want to talk about foreign aid, and I was prompted to get onto this subject because a story dropped into my lap last night on my show, The Political Asylum, 7 to 10, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, don't miss it. Yes, it emerged that we are, bearing in mind that we're about to get the budget from hell in November. You know, that Robert Reeves is going to tax the backsides of us, going to tax us to hell, you know, break all our promises. Need the money. OK, yeah, what are you going to spend it on? Well, one of the things they're going to spend it on, they're going to send £111 million to Pakistan for condoms. It's called the Accelerating Family Planning in Pakistan scheme. Now, I'm sure that's a very important issue for Pakistan, but what's it got to do with us? Why are we sending them £111 million? I think taxpayers would be furious about this. Going back over the years, I think it's a sort of bit of a sickness in this country. Be kind, you know, the sort of Live Aid, Band-Aid syndrome. We gave £500,000 to China to help teach them how to grow rice. To teach Chinese people how to grow rice. This is my favourite. We gave £12 million to the Ethiopian equivalent of the Spice Girls. They're called the Yegna Girl Band, so they could develop their pop careers. We gave millions of pounds, we don't know the exact amount, to Zimbabwe, so they could install friendship benches for people sitting around and talking to each other, particularly people with mental health issues. I like this one. It's not a massive amount of money until you hear why we gave Bangladesh £133,000. We gave them £133,000 to investigate shrimp health, the health of their shrimps. I have no idea how you establish whether or not a shrimp is healthy or not. Oh, that shrimp looks like it's got a bit of a cold. It's got the flu. £133,000 for that. We gave millions of pounds to Pakistan again to help them give up smoking, anti-smoking lessons. Of course, there were the famous electric Porsches for prisons in Albania. This is a good one. £5 million to Tanzania for dance and juggling lessons. And on this madness goes. Foreign aid is just insane, isn't it?
Indeed it is. And this is exactly what you get. And this happened, I think, about 8 or 9 years ago when we enshrined in legislation that 0.7% of GDP will go in foreign aid. So the Overseas Development Minister is the only minister that has to go in front of the House of Commons to apologise if they haven't spent all their budget. I mean, just think about that. They have to spend this money. Now, it's being reduced to 0.5%. It's going to eventually be reduced to 0.3% of GDP. But this is just a con. So you've got civil servants wandering around Whitehall looking at how they can spend money. Now, anyone who's worked in the civil service will understand this because it comes towards the end of the financial year. There is a budget there, and civil servants waste millions of pounds buying frivolous things just to make sure that they get exactly the same amount in their budget the following year. Well, overseas aid works in exactly the same way. And there's another thing here as well, Kevin, which is the nationalisation of charity. charity comes from the Latin word caritas. It means to love. It means for the love of someone or a family or a particular organisation or project that you voluntarily hand over your cash. But no, in this case, the government, on behalf of taxpayers, is handing money to Pakistan to do something that, quite frankly, the Pakistani government should be able to do themselves. But even if they couldn't, if ordinary citizens in the UK wish to make a private voluntary donation to Pakistan to help with this project, that's completely up to them. But I imagine that the vast majority of people don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if our economy was going gangbusters, you know, and we were, you know, like swimming in money and everybody was well off, we all had great jobs and nobody was struggling with the cost of living because we were all fabulously wealthy, you know, then, you know, I don't mind the concept of being generous to less privileged, less wealthy countries. I don't mind the idea of, you know, handing some money to countries that are struggling. I don't mind that idea. But we are not. We are in dire straits. The people of this country are in dire straits. We have a government, you know, saying, "Oh, really sorry. It looks like we're going to have to break our promise and actually tax you to hell after all." So November's budget will be a budget from hell that will make us even more poorer, and then we discover that amid the money that they need £111 million to give to Pakistan so that Pakistan can buy condoms for its residents, its citizens. Now, this is an equation that is likely to annoy people in this country. And, you know, when you say the Minister for Overseas Development is the only minister who has to go and apologise if he or she hasn't spent enough money, you can imagine the committee sitting there saying, "Oh, so you haven't managed to get up to your £10 billion. Can't you find another country that needs some juggling lessons?" You know, this is deranged. It's
It is
deranged.
completely deranged, but it's exactly what happens, Kevin. That is exactly how it works. Now, I don't care how awash Britain is with cash. I still want.
Well, we're not, are we?
Well, we're not. But even if we were, I still want taxpayers' money spent properly. And the examples that you have just given there, numerous examples, and there are many more, they are not examples of our taxpayers' money being spent properly. I think the majority of British people would not object if a certain amount of money went to a project, for example, in Africa that provided clean drinking water. But there's plenty of charities who do that anyway. If it's the genuine alleviation of distress, of hunger, of famine, then I don't think most people really have much of a problem with that. But when it comes to sort of funding the Ethiopian equivalent of the Spice Girls or buying condoms in Pakistan, then the vast majority of people are quite rightly annoyed. But they would be annoyed whether we were in good times, which we're not, or in the bad times, which we are in now.
Yeah, and of course the Ethiopian Spice Girls, I'm surprised you don't know their name, the Yegna girl band. The idea, that, well, the reason we gave them money was because it would empower girls via the prism of radio dramas, music, and so on and so forth. But absolute insanity, and infuriating insanity, given that people are struggling, and when the government says it needs money, you know, I was going to say fair enough, not really fair enough, but they say they need money. Well, OK, you need money, but you didn't tell us you needed money to give £111 million to Pakistan to pay for condoms in their family planning programme. So,
which Pakistan should be paying for themselves.
Well, that's my point. I mean, I'm not trying to undermine the importance of family planning in Pakistan. I'm sure it is an incredibly crucial issue there, but it is a matter for them, not for us to pay for. Before you go, Andrew, a quick word, if you will. You're from the popular Conservatives, one of the few remaining popular Conservatives. No, seriously. What do you make of the result in Wales, in Caerphilly? I mean, seismically bad for Labour, obviously. They've lost that seat, the local seat, for the first time ever. And it's quite clear there's going to be quite a sea change in Welsh politics going forward. But once again, the picture for the Conservatives there, I mean, I know they never do very well in Wales, but it is not good. The Conservatives are not performing well at the ballot box, are they?
No, you can't say that 2% of the popular vote is all that popular, can you? What happened in Caerphilly, it's quite obvious that if you were of a left of centre persuasion, you coalesced around Plaid Cymru because you knew that Labour were going to be in for a drubbing. And if you were of a right of centre persuasion, you weren't going to vote Conservative, you were going to go for reform. And as some people are trying to spin this as a bad night for reform, I think it was actually a really good night for reform. They won 36% of the popular vote. That's quite a platform to build on, especially as the left-wing parties made absolutely damn sure that they couldn't be elected. But we look forward, I suppose, to the Senate elections in May next year, where the voting system has changed. If you remember the Hunt system, which we used to use to elect members of the European Parliament, that is going to be used in Wales next year, and the number of assembly members is going to be increased from 60 up to 96. I think it's 16 individual constituencies, all electing 6 members each. Now, that system really is designed to give the left a majority, so it'll be interesting to see what happens next year.
Last thing, it seems the skids are really under Keir Starmer now because of this result, and because we know that the May local elections in Wales, they're going to get wiped out. So the Labour Party is fixing to get rid of Starmer because he is literally like the captain, well, not literally, he's the captain of the Titanic, as it were. So they're fixing to get rid of him. Do you think the Tories will get rid of Kemi Badenoch anytime soon? Because I think they should.
I honestly don't know that. I mean, I thought her speech to the Conservative Party conference was brilliant. It was the most conservative speech I've heard a Conservative leader give, really, since the time of Margaret Thatcher. But of course, words are one thing and deeds are another. But I certainly think that she's bought herself quite a lot of time. But as you've mentioned there, those elections in Wales and in Scotland in particular, but we've also got elections in London as well, are going to be hugely important for both Keir Starmer and for Kemi Badenoch too. If both parties do particularly badly, then I think both leaders are under enormous pressure. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a new leader of the Conservative Party this time next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a new leader of the Labour Party, a new Prime Minister this time next year.
I think you're right. I think you're definitely right. Andrew, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's Andrew Allison, Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism. Right, we're going to take your calls after the break. Don't forget Ian Collins will be in at the top of the hour to let you know what he's got coming up for your delectation between 1 and 3 p.m. But stick around, we'll take your calls next.
more people driving electric cars. And of course, that means fewer people filling their tanks up with petrol. And petrol, the levies on petrol, as your viewers will know, because they're the ones paying it, it's so expensive. That money's going into government. When government loses that money because more people are driving EVs, we do need to think about what the alternative measure looks like. What we want to get to through this cheaper energy commitment is that you make electricity so cheap that your viewers are saying, get me an electric car as quickly as possible.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, I'm getting used to this daytime stuff. Sunshine, lovely day in London. Might go and have a drink afterwards. Who'd have thought that? Right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Tim in Hartlepool. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
How you doing, mate? You want to talk about migration? What would you like to say?
Well, there's a couple of points, really. On a broader topic, I think really the ECHR is at the core of the problem, where we're not allowed to apprehend and detain illegally.
Well, we're not allowed to make our sovereign decisions. That's the core of that problem.
Yeah. So on a broader sense, I mean, if all countries in Europe, and I think Giorgia Meloni's just started the discussion, hasn't she, about maybe they should debate whether or not they leave all parts.
Yeah, she wants to either, I think she wants to redefine the terms of the ECHR. That isn't a road we should go down, I don't think. I think we should leave. Now, the point about leaving the ECHR is people say, oh, we leave the ECHR, that'll solve the migrant crisis. No, it won't. But it is the essential, crucial foundation stone of being able to solve our migrant crisis, because you can't solve this crisis if you can't make your own sovereign decisions. And when we make an alleged sovereign decision, the ECHR can overrule us. That's why we have to leave.
But you're right, the solution is tied up in the ability for us to do what our own laws, in fact, any international country's laws, which say you are perfectly allowed to apprehend and actually detain those who enter your country illegally. So it would require Britain to build detention centres, which would become such a massive and off-putting idea for migrants to want to come over here if they weren't put up in hotels and they weren't given all the apparent luxury.
Yeah, but you see, Tim, though, I take your point. We're pretty much on the same page. The one thing I would say, though, is if we essentially said to anybody who wants to cross the channel illegally, when you get, you want to claim asylum, do you? You're going to, okay, who's your lawyer? Because we're not paying for it. Where are you going to stay? Because we're not putting you in a hotel. Got any money? Because we're not giving you 50 quid a week. How are you going to feed yourself? We're not going to give you free food. We're not going to give you free doctors. We're not going to give you free dentists. You're paying for everything yourself. Once the migrants, the cross-channel small boaters, realise that Britain is no longer the promised land, the land of plenty, they'll stop coming. We won't need detention centres. Do you see what I mean?
Well, I do, although I think initially putting them in detention centres while we explain all that to them and letting them keep their mobile phones so they can ring home and say, wait a minute, things have changed here, don't set off.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, and the other thing is, once you've got them in detention centres, you know exactly where they are, so then you can maybe relook at some of these schemes where over time, if you've controlled the numbers coming in, over time you can now send the ones in the detention centres away to any country that will have them, and you gradually empty out the detention
Well, I think what you
centres.
do is you send them back to the country that they're from. It's as simple as that. But I mean, you know,
let you.
All this takes, Tim. We need to leave the ECHR.
Yeah,
then we need
absolutely.
to show, as a country, the kind of resolve that Donald Trump showed when he became president. He solved their migrant crisis in a week. In a week.
Yeah, well, he's a real leader, isn't he?
Yeah, there was something like they think maybe as many as 10 million, but officially 4 million migrants coming across the southern border illegally every year under Biden. Trump stopped it overnight. It's resolve. Our government, Labour, does not have any resolve, and we also need to be able to make our own final decisions. And as long as we're a member of the ECHR, we can't. So I agree with you, but it's that leaving the ECHR is just the starting point. Tim, good to talk. Good points. Thank you very much. Tim in Hartlepool. Let's quickly go to Stuart in London. You want to talk about foreign aid. What would you like to say, Stuart?
Yeah, experience as a civil servant of this. I'll be brief. I could be on for hours. Need to go down the American approach of just stopping it. It's a complete and utter scam.
Yes, I agree with you.
That money isn't getting abroad a lot of the time.
Yeah. Exactly. Just stop it. Just stop it. It's madness.
It's diverted in all sorts of nebulous ways. There's thin or no evaluation. Do you think people are going to fly out to Pakistan to evaluate that scheme? No. Of course they're not. And it's trousered by all sorts of people. Evaluation reports are weak. If you look on the website where you're getting that, there will be evaluation reports, and a lot of them are weak or non-existent. And it's just a way of.
I mean, but I think your original point, Stuart, just stop it. I mean, why on earth are we even considering it? Oh, look, I've got this idea. We're going to take British taxpayers' money, 111 million pounds of it. We're going to spend it on buying condoms for Pakistan. You know, the fact you got people sitting around in Westminster going, yeah, that's a good idea. That is insane. That is insane. So you're right, and you got the experience. Just stop it. Good idea. Stuart, the show's almost over, so I've got to go, but that was an excellent call. Thanks for ringing, mate. Stuart in London there. Ian Collins is in the studio.
Hello.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, Kev.
Look at me. It's me. It's me.
It's Kev.
In the day. I look good in the day, don't I?
You always look good, Kev.
Who can argue with that?
Listen, when I was a very, very small child and I used to see you on the TV, I used to think then you were... Yeah. There's O'Sullivan, always looking dapper and fantastic.
Yeah. You thought, when I'm older, I hope I can be famous.
That's what I was saying. I want to be like him. I said, Mum,